I sat quietly in the kitchen, gently holding the white ceramic cup in my hands, the warmth from the coffee slowly spreading through my palms, trying and failing to ease the cold that had settled deep inside my chest. The morning light slipped through the thin curtains, casting soft rays across the worn wooden table, illuminating scratches and stains collected over years of shared breakfasts and quiet conversations. It should have been a calm, ordinary morning, the kind that carried promise. Instead, the air felt heavy, thick with tension that pressed against my lungs and made each breath feel deliberate. Josh, my husband, paced the length of the kitchen, back and forth across the creaky floorboards. Each step landed hard, filled with irritation, his movements sharp and restless. I didn't need to lift my eyes to know his anger was fixed on me. I could feel it hovering in the space between us, dark and unsettled, like a storm gathering strength. The argument from the night before hadn't faded with sleep. It lingered, clinging to the walls, refusing to loosen its grip. The night before, Josh had asked me to hand over my credit card to his sister Megan. He framed it as an emergency, his tone practiced and persuasive. But I knew Megan's version of emergencies too well. They usually ended in shopping bags, impulsive purchases, or last-minute trips she couldn't afford. This wasn't new. It had happened more times than I could count, and every time I was expected to comply without question. Megan just needs a little help, Josh had said, his voice soft but unyielding. She's family. Family helps each other, right? I had tried to keep my voice steady, choosing my words carefully, hoping reason might reach him this time. Josh, I get that she's your sister, but we have limits. We can't keep paying for her choices. She has to learn responsibility. That was all it took. My calm response ignited something volatile in him. His voice rose instantly, echoing through the house. You don't understand anything. You don't have siblings. You don't know what it means to take care of family. I stayed quiet after that. I'd learned that pushing back only fueled the fire. We had replayed this same argument so many times, always ending the same way. I would give in, Megan would walk away with more money, and nothing would change. But something inside me had shifted. This time, I had decided I wouldn't surrender. Now, in the dim morning quiet, I took a slow sip of the bitter coffee. The taste matched the heaviness in my chest. Josh continued pacing, his steps tapping against my nerves, his eyes cutting toward me every time he passed. The pressure was suffocating. We need to talk, Josh, I said finally, breaking the silence. My voice was calm but firm. We can't keep living like this. Megan needs to learn to stand on her own. It would be better for her and for us. He stopped abruptly and spun toward me. His face was flushed, jaw clenched tight. You're selfish, he snapped. My family needs help, and all you care about is yourself. I inhaled deeply, forcing my voice to remain even. I'm not being selfish. I'm trying to protect our family. We can't keep fixing other people's problems. Sometimes the best help is not helping. You don't know anything, Josh shouted, his voice shattering what little peace remained in the kitchen. Who do you think you are to judge my sister? You don't even have a family. You don't understand loyalty. His words sliced through me. I gripped the cup tighter, the warmth no longer able to fight the chill creeping into my bones. I may not have siblings, I said quietly, but I understand responsibility, and right now our responsibility is stability. This can't continue. For a brief second, his shoulders sagged and hope flickered in my chest, but it vanished just as quickly when his expression hardened. You're going to give your credit card to Megan, he said, his voice low and threatening. She'll be here this afternoon and you'll hand it over with a smile. Do you understand? Fear rippled through me, but I shook my head. No, Josh, I won't. If she truly needs help, we can find another way. A budget, a financial advisor, but I won't give her my credit card. That refusal unleashed his fury. Before I could react, he grabbed his coffee cup from the counter. Time slowed as I saw his arm lift. The dark liquid flew through the air and slammed into my face. I gasped as the heat burned my skin, my breath coming in broken bursts. The cup hit the floor and shattered, porcelain exploding into sharp white fragments. Josh stood there, red-faced, shouting threats I barely heard. The man who once promised to protect me now looked at me with cruelty etched into his eyes. I touched my face, feeling the sting, the sticky coffee soaking my hair and collar. The kitchen, once a place of comfort, had become a battlefield. He stormed out after hurling one final warning, the door slamming so hard it rattled the walls. I collapsed in a chair, grabbing a kitchen towel with shaking hands, daubing at my face. Pain radiated across my skin, but the deeper ache was inside my chest. The house felt unfamiliar, like I no longer belonged in it. "I can't stay here anymore," a clear voice echoed in my mind. With trembling fingers, I reached for my phone. Missed calls and old messages filled the screen. I had drifted away from friends over time, slowly isolated without realizing it. One name stopped me: Clara, my best friend from college, the one who never stopped checking on me. I dialed her number. When she answered, my composure shattered. "Lena, what's wrong?" "Clara, I need help." "I'm on my way," she said instantly. "Don't worry." The weight on my chest eased slightly. I moved quickly, pulling out an old suitcase from under the bed, packing clothes, documents, my laptop, and the jewelry my mother left me. I retrieved the small metal box hidden in the closet, filled with cash I'd quietly saved over months. I didn't know why I'd done it then. I did now. When the doorbell rang, I froze, then rushed forward when I heard Clara's voice. She wrapped me in her arms, steady and strong. "We're leaving, now." As we drove away, the house disappeared in the rearview mirror. Clara's home welcomed me with warmth, children's laughter, and the kindness I hadn't felt in years. That evening, we shared dinner, stories, and quiet understanding. For the first time in a long while, I felt safe. The next morning, Clara taught me to meet her friend, a lawyer who specialized in helping women escape toxic marriages. My nerves twisted as we sat across from her desk, my hands clasped tightly in my lap. Sarah's office was in an old building with red brick walls and large windows overlooking a green park. She greeted us with a warm smile, her bright brown eyes and professional yet approachable demeanor immediately putting me at ease. "I'm so glad you reached out to me, Lena," Sarah said after listening to my story. "First, we need to make sure you're safe. I'll help you apply for a temporary protection order, and we can start the divorce process whenever you're ready." Sarah talked about my legal rights, how to protect my finances and personal assets. She explained how the divorce process would work, and I felt like the fog in my mind was beginning to lift. What had once been an invisible fear had now become specific, achievable steps on the way to freedom. On the way back, Clara suggested I find a job to help build my life. "Do you remember Isabella, my cousin? She just opened a small bookstore in the town center. I can ask if she needs any help." The idea of working in a bookstore unexpectedly warmed my heart. I had always loved books, had once dreamed of becoming a writer before those dreams were crushed during my years with Josh. I nodded, feeling a small spark of hope reignite within me. The next day, I met Isabella at her bookstore, the Cozy Nook. The place felt like stepping into another world. Tall bookshelves reaching the ceiling, warm golden lights, and the comforting scent of new paper mixed with fresh coffee from the small cafe inside. Isabella, with her short hair and radiant smile, immediately made me feel at ease. "Clara told me about you," Isabella said as we sat in a corner of the cafe. "This store is my dream, but I really need someone to help out. Would you like to give it a try?" Without hesitation, I nodded. "I'd love to. I need to start over somewhere, and this seems like a wonderful place to do that." From the very first day, I fell in love with the work at the bookstore, organizing new arrivals, recommending books to customers, and especially the peaceful moments sitting in the cozy corner reading, all made me feel like I was slowly rediscovering myself. Each day that passed, I felt stronger, more confident, and less haunted by my past. Isabella was not only a great boss, but also a new friend. She always found ways to encourage me, from small things like picking a good book to genuinely supportive words when she noticed I seemed withdrawn. "You're starting over, Lena," she said one day as we arranged newly arrived books, "and I believe you'll find your path." Every afternoon, as the sunset cast a golden hue through the bookstore windows, I would sit in the cafe corner, watching people go by and wondering where this new life would lead me. Bit by bit, I began writing in my journal again, capturing my thoughts and feelings. Writing became my outlet, helping me realize I still had so much to say, so many stories to tell. Even though the road ahead held challenges, I knew I was no longer alone. I had Clara, her family, Isabella, and a job that made me feel valued. And most importantly, I had myself, a stronger, braver Lena than ever before. One autumn afternoon, the soft sunlight filtered through Clara's living room window, casting a gentle glow on the plush carpet. I sat in the armchair, flipping through a new book borrowed from Isabella's bookstore, but my mind couldn't focus. The peaceful days with Clara's family felt like a sweet dream, but I always knew the storm wasn't truly over. Clara had taken the kids to the park, and Tom was still at the office. The house was so quiet I could hear every tick of the clock. Suddenly, the doorbell rang, breaking through my thoughts. My heart pounded, a bad feeling creeping in. I gently pulled back the curtain and peeked outside. The familiar black car was parked right in front of the house, and I immediately recognized Josh's license plate. Alongside him was Megan, her usual confident expression still intact, but there was a sharp resolve in her eyes. My hands shook, clutching the phone in my pocket tightly. Sarah had warned me to always be cautious, never to open the door when I was home alone. But before I could think of what to do, the pounding on the door began, forceful and filled with threat. "Lena, open the door," Josh's voice boomed, laced with impatience. "I know you're in there." I backed away, my heart racing. Sarah's words echoed in my mind. "Lena, you have the right to protect yourself. Don't let them control you anymore." "Lena, don't be so childish," Megan said loudly, her voice cold and sharp. "Do you think you can hide forever? Are you really going to abandon my brother in this situation?" I closed my eyes, reminding myself to stay calm. I didn't owe them anything. I had the right to live my own life. I quickly texted Clara. "Josh and Megan are here. I'm not opening the door." Immediately after, I called Sarah. She picked up right away, her voice warm but cautious. "Lena, what's going on?" "Josh and Megan are outside Clara's house," I whispered. "They want me to go back and give money to Megan." "Don't open the door," Sarah reminded me. "I'm on my way. If they try to force entry, call the police." I put the phone down, focusing on steadying my breathing. Outside, the banging on the door grew louder, stronger, and more threatening. "Lena, if you don't open this door, I'll come in myself." Josh's voice grew harsher. "You think you can just walk away without taking responsibility? You owe my family." A wave of anger rose within me. Owe them? I had given up so many dreams, sacrificed my freedom and self-respect for him and his family. It was time for me to reclaim my life. About 10 minutes later, the sound of a car horn echoed outside. Through the window, I saw Sarah stepping out of her silver SUV, her professional attire and high heels only adding to her authoritative aura. She approached the door, her expression calm, but her eyes unwavering. "Josh, Megan, what are you doing here?" Sarah's voice was clear and strong. "None of your business," Megan shot back, but her voice lacked the confidence it usually held. "Actually, this is exactly my business," Sarah responded, pulling out her attorney's card. "I am Lena's legal representative. According to the temporary protection order, you are not allowed to approach her. If you don't want legal trouble, I suggest you leave immediately." Josh hesitated, his eyes wide with surprise. "You think you can stop me? Lena is my wife. I have a right to talk to her."
Sarah remained composed. Lena has filed for divorce. From now on, all communication will go through your attorney. If you do not leave, I will have to call the police. Megan tugged on her brother's arm, her face paling. Let's go, Josh. Don't make a scene. Josh continued to stare at the door, his expression shifting from anger to desperation. Lena, please, I just want to understand why you're doing this. Sarah stepped forward, placing herself firmly between them. Josh, it's too late. You need to respect Lena's decision. Finally, Josh dropped his hands, lowered his head, and turned away. Megan, however, couldn't resist a final threat. You'll regret this, Lena. You can never escape my family. Sarah crossed her arms, her gaze steely. This is your last warning. Leave now or face legal consequences. As the black car pulled away from the house, I realized I had been holding my breath. Sarah opened the door, stepping inside with a gentle smile. They're gone? Are you okay? Tears streamed down my face, but this time they were from relief, not fear. Thank you, Sarah. I don't know what I would have done without you. Sarah sat down next to me, holding my hand tightly. You are incredibly strong. Standing up for yourself is never easy, but you did it. This is just the beginning, but I believe you'll get through all of it. For the first time in months, I truly believed I could rebuild my life, break free from the cycle of control and toxicity of the past, and most importantly, I knew I was no longer alone on this journey. In the days following Josh and Megan's appearance at Clara's door, I slowly began to feel true relief. It was as if a heavy backpack had been lifted off my shoulder. I started breathing more deeply and appreciating the crisp morning air. Clara and her family's presence helped me find a sense of home again, but I knew that to truly heal, I needed to start building my own independent life. One Saturday morning, while sipping a hot cup of coffee by the window, I came across a flyer for a community yoga class. Find inner peace. The bold letters on the pastel-colored paper seemed to whisper directly to me. I used to love yoga. It was a time when I connected with myself, but during my years with Josh, I had forgotten that passion. I decided to try the class. The yoga studio was in a small cultural center near Isabella's bookstore. The room was filled with natural light, yoga mats spread across the polished wooden floor. The instructor, Mia, a woman in her 40s with a gentle voice and a warm smile, welcomed me with a light hug. Just relax and listen to your body, Lena, she said, as if she could see the wounds.
I carried the weight of years of abandonment. The first session was not easy. My body was stiff. Every stretch brought discomfort. But every time Mia guided us to breathe deeply and let go of worries, with each breath I felt layers of heaviness in my mind being washed away. In the final Savasana pose, lying on the mat with my eyes closed, I could hear the peaceful rhythm of my own heartbeat. It was a feeling I had long forgotten, the feeling of inner peace. Clara noticed the change in me. You look so much brighter, Lena. I'm so glad you found something that makes you happy. Every evening after the kids had gone to bed, we would sit together in the armchair, sipping herbal tea and talking about future plans. Clara always encouraged me to write again, knowing how much I used to love creating stories. Why don't you try keeping a journal? She suggested. It doesn't have to be fancy. Just write down what you feel. It could be a way for you to process your emotions. I started writing, initially just short lines about my feelings each day, but gradually stories began to take shape. I wrote about a brave woman weathering the storm, about the journey of finding oneself after the darkness. Each page felt like a step forward on my path to healing. Working at the bookstore also made me fall in love with life again. Isabella, with her enthusiasm and positive energy, always found ways to make each workday enjoyable. On quiet afternoons, when the customers had gone, we would sit by the cash register, sipping chamomile tea and sharing our favorite books. Isabella even suggested I write a few book reviews for the store's blog. You have such a genuine way with words, Lena. I'm sure our customers will love what you share. Gradually, I began to earn a stable income and started thinking about finding a space of my own. Sarah, with her thoughtful and dedicated approach, helped me manage the legal proceedings of my divorce. She also encouraged me to bravely look for a small apartment, a place where I could truly start over. I found a charming studio apartment in the suburbs. It wasn't big, but it had a window overlooking a green park, a compact kitchen, and a cozy nook where I could set up a writing desk. On moving day, Clara, Tom, and both kids helped me organize everything. Their laughter and bustling footsteps filled the space with life. The kids were excited to help me decorate with small potted plants, and Emma even made a handmade card that read, "Wishing Miss Lena lots of joy in her new home." When Clara and her family left, I sat on the small sofa, looking around the room with a heart full of gratitude. Everything in this apartment was mine, from the small paintings on the walls to the warm bedside lamp. This was truly my space, a place where I could be myself. That evening, I lit a scented candle, played my favorite music, and sat down at my desk. The computer screen displayed a blank page, but this time I wasn't afraid of the emptiness. Instead, I felt a new surge of energy. I placed my hands on the keyboard, and the words began to flow. "Today, I officially start over." The gentle words fell onto the screen, each one a step forward on the path to freedom. I knew there would still be challenges ahead, but this time I felt strong enough to face anything. The night had already fallen outside, but in my small room the light remained on. I wrote until my fingers ached, until I truly felt I had found myself again, a stronger, freer Lena filled with hope. I sat by the window of my small apartment, the soft glow of the evening sun filtering through the white curtains, casting gentle patterns on the wooden floor. In front of me, my laptop remained open, with my nearly finished manuscript, The Awakening. That was the title of my first novel, a story about the journey of finding oneself, not just mine, but also that of many other women out there. My novel was almost complete. Each page was a step forward. Each little story within carried hope and strength. I wrote about sleepless nights, about pain and heartache, but I also didn't forget to write about the glimmers of light, about the hands that reached out to me when I needed them most. A message popped up on my phone screen. It was Clara. "Still coming over tonight? The kids are so excited." I smiled, replying immediately, "Of course, I'll bring a few new chapters for you to read." I stood up, stretched, and stepped out onto the balcony. The cool air carried the gentle scent of wildflowers from the roadside. I looked down at the small street where children played, their laughter echoing through the air. A sense of peace wrapped around me, as if all the past hurts had truly been left behind. Since moving into this apartment, I had found a new rhythm of life. Every morning I woke up early, brewed a fragrant cup of coffee, and began to write. My job at Isabella's bookstore made me feel valued, meeting people who loved books and hearing their stories. Isabella had even started planning a book signing event for me if The Awakening got published. The thought filled me with both excitement and motivation. That evening, I went to Clara's house, her warm home filled with soft yellow lights, and the smell of freshly baked goods instantly made me feel welcome. The kids ran to hug me, their small embraces overflowing with love. Tom was busy grilling in the backyard, sharing funny stories that kept everyone laughing. In that moment, I realized I had truly found a family, not through blood, but through genuine love and connection. Clara and her family showed me that no matter how many storms I had faced, I could still find a rainbow. When dinner ended, Clara pulled me aside, her eyes bright with excitement. "I have good news for you," she whispered. "Sarah just called me. Your divorce has been approved by the court. All the paperwork is finalized. You are officially free, Lena." My heart seemed to stop for a moment, and then the emotions burst forth. I hugged Clara tightly, tears streaming down my face. But this time, they weren't tears of sorrow. They were tears of liberation, of joy, and of hope. I was truly free, not only legally, but also in my soul. That night, when I returned to my apartment, I opened the windows, letting the cool night breeze fill the room.
I sat at my desk, reopened the manuscript I had been working on. The cursor blinked steadily on the blank screen, but this time I knew exactly what I wanted to write. Tomorrow is a new day. I used to be afraid of each morning, but now I embrace it with gratitude. The sun will rise, and I will continue walking my own path with an open heart and a free spirit. This is not just the end of an old chapter, but the beginning of a bright new one in my life. I clicked save, closed my laptop, and stepped out onto the balcony. On the horizon, the city lights sparkled like stars, reminding me that life goes on, that so many beautiful things are still waiting for me ahead. I took a deep breath, feeling the breeze caress my skin. Everything was peaceful, and I knew that at last I had found myself. My story was still unfolding, but this time I was the one holding the pen, writing new chapters with courage and love for myself. Lena's story is not just a journey of overcoming pain and finding herself, but also a testament to the inner strength that lies within each of us. In real life, we all face challenges, sometimes even deep wounds from toxic relationships or unfair circumstances. However, just as Lena did, as long as we are brave enough to set boundaries, love ourselves, and seek help when needed, everything can change. Life always offers new opportunities to those who stand up and continue writing their own story. What do you think of Lena's journey and her courageous decision? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to hit follow to stay tuned for more meaningful and real-life stories about family life in upcoming videos.